after spending a combined 10 goddamn hours, these secret bosses, I can safely say, this game is fantastic. Or I'm a sadist. Maybe it's both. Yeah, I think it's both. Deltarune's 3rd and 4th chapter just released at the beginning of this month, and it's safe to say that I have spent a little, just a bit of time on this game. Previously, Toby Fox had released the game's first 2 chapters as a sort of teaser, which the community eagerly scarfed down and wanted more. But more was still a little while away from us. And I can tell you now, after 4 years of waiting, I have to stress, these latest 2 chapters are absolutely, chef's kiss, perfecto, sugoi. Now, I just hope the wait for the remaining 3 chapters is a mercifully shorter one. Like, please, Toby, I don't want to rush you, but if we could, settle on a time between the imminent heat death of the universe and maybe before GTA 6, that
would be great. Okay?
Deltarune is the spiritual successor to Toby's first indie hit, Undertale. Another game you're definitely going to see me cover on this channel, eventually. But that's a tale for another day. The game begins with us designing our vessel, the character that's going to be representing us through our adventures in Deltarune. Before the narrator just says, you know what, actually, fuck that, your design was lame anyway, and introduces us to the real character we're going to be piloting, Kris. As we arrive late to school and have to pair up with resident mean girl / cool dinosaur Susie for our class project. We get sent off to retrieve more chalk for our homeroom teacher, but end up getting isekai'd into an alternate world known as a dark world. We meet up with the bestest of fluffy boys, Ralsei, and proceed to seal the fountain within the dark world. This is the general structure of Deltarune. Explore hometown, find dark world portal, explore and learn about that dark world, seal portal, return home to witness some kind of nightmarish out-of-body experience with Kris. Rinse and repeat. Each dark world is based on a location in hometown. The first we encounter is in a closet at Kris's school. The second is the computer labs at the library. The third is the TV in our home. And the final, at least for now, is in the hometown church. The creatures or darkners that inhabit these worlds are all based on objects that you'd find in their homeworld locations. Playing cards, Dixie cups, water coolers. In reality, they're just lifeless, inanimate objects. But within dark worlds, they have their own conscience, they're living beings, that all seem to have memories of their alternate world equivalents. I'll try to avoid spoiling the main bulk of Deltarune's story, as honestly that's the best part of the experience in my opinion. But as we go through the chapters, we watch our protagonists grow. Susie starts to open up more and really embrace her new friendships. Ralsei begins to form more of his own personality, rather than just focusing his entire existence around the other two. And Kris? Yeah. We're still kinda in the dark on what the hell exactly is going on with Kris. But with each passing chapter, it becomes clear that whenever we, the player, aren't in control of Kris, they have their own agenda in mind, and don't appear to necessarily share our personal goals. But for now, let's move on. Deltarune, like its predecessor, is an RPG/bullet hell. Think like Earthbound and Touhou had a baby. A baby that has a really distinct sense of humor and apparently Among Us references. The game's puzzles and explorations are done from a top-down perspective, while the game's combat is a turn-based command and dodge affair. Honestly, before playing Undertale, I'd have never considered these genres could work together. But Toby Fox had a vision, and boy am I glad he saw it through. Truthfully, I've never been too great at bullet hell style games. RPGs I've been playing since I was a wee little skunkling. Hell, one of the first PlayStation games I ever owned was Final Fantasy VII. But bullet hells were always something I'd kind of watch others play with a morbid fascination. Like, I mean, looking at something like this actively has me going, "Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! SpongeBob, careful!" But Deltarune does a really great job of easing you into things before you're hit with anything too obnoxious. And honestly, I would say, like, I don't know, 99% of the fights are absolutely fair, balanced, and fun to get your head around. We'll talk about those 1%ers when we get to the spoiler section. As you progress through the game's story, you'll be able to find and buy new items and equipment for your party, play through a great variety of minigames, and make decisions that will impact the rewards you receive from encounters and how the story unfolds. The big motif behind Deltarune is your choices don't matter, the opposite of its predecessor. But as you'll quickly come to realize, the game has plenty of ways to subvert that mindset. Now, even if you've never played Deltarune, or Undertale for that matter, you've at least heard these games' fantastic soundtracks. Toby Fox composed a ton of this game's music, but also had a little help from Lena Raine and Marcy Neighbors. I hope I said that right. I said it like neighbors, but it's like nabors? No, nabors. And like, by this point, I'm sure you all know I'm just gonna yap on about how great the music here is, and practically fillet this game. But am I wrong, though? Like, seriously, am I wrong? So much of Deltarune's music is absolutely inspiring, with underlying leitmotifs from past Undertale songs that provoke this warm wave of euphoria, like you've seen an old friend again, but for the first time. All 4 chapters of the game have some fantastic earworms. My personal favorites include Beginning, Rude Buster, Field of Hopes and Dreams, The World Revolving, A Cyber's World, Cool Mixtape, Raise Up Your Bat, Castle Funk, The Second Sanctuary, Hammer of Justice. Look, I could name like every song in this game's soundtrack. They hit all the right notes at just the right time. This OST is absolutely all prime, no filler. But for your sanity and this video's runtime, I'm going to move on and talk about some very spoiler-heavy stuff now. We're talking secret boss fights, theories, everything that I felt like was important to put behind a spoiler warning. So if you want to skip over this stuff, just jump to the time here on the screen. But if not, here they come. Every chapter in Deltarune has a lot of secrets to uncover. Secret dialogue, the eggs you can find in hidden rooms, to rare little scenes with characters. But the biggest ones, and by far the most challenging ones, are the secret optional bosses. Remember when I was talking about those 1% fights that don't feel particularly fair? Yeah, this is them. Now, don't get me wrong though, not all of these secret bosses have been created equally. The Jebel fight in Chapter 1 took me a couple of attempts, sure, but I had him beat after about 4 or 5 tries. Neo Spamton was even easier, besting him on my 2nd attempt. And as a quick little aside, if you're struggling with this fight in particular, hit F1 on your keyboard when you and your teammates are on low health. Spamton has this mechanic when you fight his normal form where he'll say, press F1 for help, like the old computer prompts. And doing so will have him heal your whole party and do a unique little head pat animation. And this function carries over to his Neo form fight as well. Really nifty if you're short on healing items, and letting you save your revivements for the real stressful fights ahead. And you're gonna want to save as many of those as you can. Because then we get to him. This absolute smug bastard. The Roaring Knight, Chapter 3's secret boss. Though calling him secret isn't probably the correct term here. See, you have to throw down with him through normal gameplay. Only if you haven't done the numerous extra steps to collect the Shadow Mantle, this absolute unit is going to one-shot your team with little effort. It's kind of a scripted loss type fight, though you can actually beat him if you play perfectly. But look, I'm not that kind of skunk, and even with the Shadow Mantle, this fight has to be the most difficult battle in Deltarune, by like a large fucking margin. Some of the attack patterns aren't too difficult to master. Things like the pinwheel slash style hits and the star attacks get to the point where you can dodge them perfectly. But it's the hallway of swords and the reality splitting attacks that really frayed on my sanity. Like, visually watching these attacks, they feel like they're not too bad. And using Kris's hold breath action allows your soul to move even quicker. I don't know what it is, but like, the hitbox for these attacks just feel slightly off, like only a little bit. And when you're trying to make practically frame-perfect movements, this can be devastating. Like, I am not exaggerating when I say I have about 2 hours of gameplay, bordering 3 hours, actually, of just this fight. And when I finally did manage to beat him, the catharsis was indescribable. Like, the people who live an hour from where I live could tell you just how loud I was on finally besting this pointy motherfucker. And then we had Chapter 4's secret boss, Gearsome. He's pretty challenging, but none of his attacks feel particularly unfair like the Knights. You just have to kind of master his patterns and make sure to reserve your TP for healing. I've read that apparently using Rude Buster makes the fight shorter, but I've never noticed it in any of my attempts when trying. While these bosses are optional, each one rewards you a Shadow Crystal. Currently, these aren't used for anything. We hand them into Seam, and that's it. But I'll bet collecting all 7 of these things is going to lead to something pretty major. Maybe like an alternate ending, maybe a final real boss. We can only guess at this stage, but a big theme in Deltarune, like I mentioned before, is the whole your choices don't matter theme. Only fighting and besting these hidden bosses, collecting these shadow crystals, maybe they'll allow us to fly in the face of that. For now, we can only guess, but if there's any way we can get some kind of good ending for our best boy Ralsei, you can bet I'm gonna work my ass off to try and attain it. Because Chapter 4 has some pretty heavy implications. As we progress through the church and read the prophecy, we know there's only one way to save the world. Though we never get to read the screen that showed us the what we needed to do in this scenario. But Susie did. And she was extremely distressed on reading it. No matter how much she tried to cover it up, and coupled with Ralsei's hopelessness, leads me to think it's going to involve closing all of the Dark World's fountains, including the one in which Ralsei and the Darkness we recruited and rescued reside, which would mean they could no longer exist. Again, this is all theorizing, as we're not working with the full picture yet, but we still don't know what's going on behind the shelter doors. Only that there's definitely a dark world in there. Or what kind of part Kris actually is playing in this. That weird interaction with the Knight on defeating it? The whole ripping their soul out thing, the eerie phone calls in Chapter 4? Despite being halfway through the game's story, there is still so much left for us to uncover. But for now, all we can do is theorize, wait. Oh, and then let the spoiler-free crowd back in. Hang on one sec. Despite Deltarune only having the first 4 chapters playable right now, it's a phenomenal experience, and a game I wholeheartedly recommend. Deltarune personifies what I love most about indie games, and that it's an experience first. No exhausting bullshit attached like the stuff bigger corpos are churning out now. Even if you're not traditionally a fan of either RPGs or bullet hell games, I would still recommend playing this game, just for how much you'll find yourself growing attached to its cast. But I think this is a great place to wrap things up for now. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm sorry this video has been a little late. I'm finally back from my family holiday and ready to get stuck back in to making content to share with all of you. I'd also like to take a short moment, if I may, to talk about my Patreon. Absolutely no pressure if you're not a fan of being on a Patreon, and as I've always said, I'm never going to be paywalling any of my content. That's just not how I do things. But if you would like to join up and be one of my little skunklings, there will be a lot of other fun things. Currently, as you've probably seen from this and my other videos, I try to hide my patrons' original characters within the video itself, as well as using their designs in an up-and-coming video project that I'm really excited to share with all of you soon, hopefully. Even if you only want to throw like $1 my way, it would really help me, given reaching partner status here on YouTube has been a bit of a mission, you know, because I'm not churning out fucking AI content. But again, no pressure. The most important thing to me is that you enjoy my content your way. So, for now, take care of yourselves, everybody, and I'll see you all again real soon.